Hey everybody, my name's AJ, welcome back to the show. Recently, a buddy asked me if I was in a position of having a lot of debt from different sources, credit cards, loans, cars, whatever. What would I do to get that paid down? And I feel like a lot of people are in that situation. Recently, I've done a lot of videos about criticizing Dave Ramsey's method of paying off some of this really low interest debt like your mortgages, and how it could be more beneficial to invest that money, especially right now when everything is on sale. However, it is a really good idea to get rid of mostly every piece of debt that you have, with the exception of some very few things that mathematically make sense to keep around if that's something that you're interested in doing for the long run. So let's talk about what you have to do to get out of debt so that you can move on with your investing and build wealth to become financially independent. First thing you have to do is adjust your mindset. So I told my buddy, it's not even really about paying the debt down. That is the first step to getting this taken care of. The first step is changing the mindset that you have around how money operates. And this requires two things. The first is understanding if you take out a loan and you don't have a plan on investing that money in order to get some kind of return, essentially what you're doing is you're borrowing from your future self and you're paying someone else to do that. You're gonna have to pay all that money back. So it's your money. You're just taking it from your future, and then you're paying a third party in order to give yourself the right to do that. That's a terrible idea. So any kind of money plan that you have to have has to remove that from your brain. That is no longer an option that you can continue doing henceforth. The next is you have to start getting a net worth mindset. A net worth mindset means starting to build your wealth, not the cash that you have in your bank account, but actually build your wealth with a plan slowly over time until we start seeing that compound interest grow. In order to have a net worth mindset, you have to start out by actually tracking your net worth. I mean, that's step number one. So take your assets. If your savings is pretty small, I would start with taking any asset that you could sell that might get you more than $100. Major electronics, cars, collectibles, anything that you have, and then you subtract your debt from that. That number is your net worth. That's what you're seeking to grow. So if it starts off negative and you start building by paying debt down, but also investing and getting some investments to produce some returns, you're going to eventually get to that 0 point and then start building the wealth going forward. That's the number that we care about. Getting out of debt is important, but the number that we care about is building that net worth. And as we see that grow, it really incentivizes us to start doing the right things to get it to grow even more. So that's really important. The next thing that you got to do, even before you pay off debt, is you have to reset your lifestyle and start to budget. I know that's not very fun. A lot of people will tell you the real wealthy don't budget. They don't pay attention to that. And there's reasons for that. We might talk about that in the future. But for us people who are just working 9-to-5s and then trying to build financial security for our families, budgeting is a huge important step. But also resetting our lifestyle. So basically what you want to do is take what you currently have after you're paying your debts at the end of the month, and that's your lifestyle now. You want to chop a little bit off the end for a buffer, 10 to 15%, and whatever's left is what you get to live on. If your life is taking up more money than that, it's time to cut back. Your lifestyle cannot afford it. And that should be your mindset going forward, even past paying the debt off, because that debt, and the last point I'm going to make before we talk about paying the debt off, is that whatever you were spending on paying down the debt should now start going towards investments. You at least have to have 15% of your income going towards investments here going forward in order to get to that financial security. More if you want to get to a point of actually being wealthy at some point in the future. So adjust your lifestyle, and then whatever you're paying into debts or paying debts off, that money should just get pushed out of your brain. It's either going to debt or it's going to investments. And that's going to start to grow that net worth number, which we now have shifted to start being more important, and that's the goal to start increasing. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, mindset stuff is done. There are three major strategies to getting debt paid down. And I like all these strategies, and it really depends on your personality type and how you handle this that determines which strategy is going to be the one that you want to take. The first is the Dave Ramsey method. I do love myself some Dave Ramsey, and I do think that he's right sometimes. And so this point, I think he has a really good argument on. His argument is pay down the smallest debt first, ignore all other factors. And his argument for that is that psychologically, we need to see those wins in order to continue paying our debt off. Because cutting down our lifestyle is not fun. It's not fun. Like he calls it eating beans and rice and beans. It's not fun doing that. And so if you can get some wins by paying off those smaller debts, it really helps your mindset so that you can continue going. Furthermore, it also frees up money. So if you have a $50 debt that you pay every month and you pay that off real fast, that $50 is now able to go to other debts or now investments, and it frees up that money to be done with something else. Not your lifestyle though, because we're trying to build financial security. The dilemma with the Dave Ramsey method is that it may not be the cheapest method. There may be methods that will build that net worth number faster. However, you have to know yourself. If you are someone who knows for sure that this isn't something you can do long term and you can stick with it, if you know that you have a hard time with debt, maybe take route number 1, start watching those Dave Ramsey videos to give you some inspiration to keep moving. However, if you're a mathematical brain and you really like watching that net worth number move, the second option is to pay off the highest interest debt first. With a high interest debt, you are paying a lot more to the bank or to that third party we talked about earlier, and you're paying a lot less to yourself in order to get that debt paid down. So technically speaking, that debt is costing you a lot more money. So focusing on that debt is mathematically going to help you in order to reduce the amount of money you're paying in interest and ultimately build wealth towards the future. The downfall of this method is that it is difficult to keep up when you're not seeing major gains happen fast. It's going to take some time, it's slow, it takes patience, and if you're not tracking things like your net worth and you're not tracking things like your debt getting paid off, it's pretty much impossible. So tracking that net worth number is going to be a huge factor in taking this route in order to make sure that you're successful for the long run. And number 3, and this is really what my buddy was asking me about, and he wanted to know if this was a route he should go into, and I would caution about this one. It has its benefits, but it's really risky if you have the wrong mindset. So number 3 is consolidating all your debt into a single loan. Now this could or could not be cheaper in the long run. If you have a lot of high interest debt, it's possible to get a loan that the average is way lower, and then paying that consolidation loan might reduce your monthly payment, which means that you could start investing or even paying off the debt faster, and it will reduce the overall amount of interest that you're paying. On the flip side, if you have a lot of lower interest loans and less high interest loans, then you could end up actually paying more during this consolidation process instead of paying less. So sitting down and doing the math is important. If you call a consolidation service, they're not going to do the math for you. So that's something that you have to take responsibility over. A lot of them will also charge fees. So counting that into your math is also really important when we're talking about paying this stuff down. And lastly, I would caution against a lot of stuff that's going to free your money up if you have the mindset of expanding your lifestyle as soon as that money gets freed up. So a lot of times what people would call, the statistical likelihood for people who get consolidation loans is that they get the loan, then they free up some of their money each month, and then they take that money and they inflate their lifestyle, and that inflation causes them to take out more debt, and they restart this process all over again. So a lot of people with consolidation loans, you'll also see still racking up credit card debt or other kinds of loans like vehicle loans. So if that's not your personality type, I would caution against that. If you don't have the personality type that could take that savings and invest it or continue paying towards the debt and focus on that net worth number, I might caution against this process. But if you have a lot of high interest debt and you do have the ability to track this stuff, this might be a way for you to go to get your debt paid down faster and cheaper. So that takes us to the end. I hope that was helpful. Debt is one of the biggest sucks to financial independence and to wealth that we have, with some very few exceptions. And coming up soon, I'm going to talk about more real estate investing, some of my experiences, and we'll break down some of my numbers so you get to see how taking out some debt might be helpful. But for all of the other kinds of debt that you have, consumer debt, car loans, school debt, whatever you got, let's get that stuff paid down so that we can start working on building wealth and financial security for us and for our families in the future. So thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.